And now we are going to go and meet Amy and her foster budgies, Bubbles and Pepper, and we're meeting them separately. So Amy, could you tell us who we're meeting first here?
We are meeting Bubbles, and I am trying to get Bubbles into the camera. Bubbles? Come on, baby. Whoops.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry to move her around. Yeah. Bubbles is a special needs bird.
Mm-hmm.
Came into Mickaboo through a local veterinarian for the birds, which is our avian vet, with a broken wing. And I think it was the clavicle that was broken. It was quite a mess in terms of the injury, but the bones have healed, and so she's as healed as she's going to be, but she cannot use the left wing to fly. But as you see, she gets along quite well in the cage, and I have a ladder, and I have a number of different perches for her. She's also very good at just climbing, hanging on to the side of the cage. So, we think she's young. We know she's young because when she came in, she still had the little stripes on her forehead, and that has grown out now, so her forehead is yellow. Hopefully, Bubbles, turn around. Oh, there we go. See you a little bit better.
I see she has that cute little white spot on the back of her head. A lot of budgies have a spot like that in their.
Right. Yeah, she's adorable, really. Yeah. I wasn't sure in the beginning if she was going to be a male or a female. She was just too young to tell. And I had her cage next to the cage of my two boys, which are my own budgies. One of my budgies just took a liking to her. It was the cutest thing. They just sat on the edges of their cages as close to each other as they could get and talked all the time. So I decided to put Bubbles in with the boys, even though it was a flight cage, and just see how well she could handle it. It's just great. But
okay, so despite the broken wing and the sort of long-term effects on her wing mobility, she can handle living in a regular flight cage with other budgies?
Yes, she did just fine. Now, I did put in a few extra perches and a couple of extra ladders and ways for her to get around. She liked having a flat perch for some reason, but she often sat on the flat perch. But yes, she got along fine, and she, knows how to come down to eat when food is served. I get a little bit of millet right there, but she doesn't seem interested in it right now.
Yeah.
She does eat romaine lettuce and spinach. She's had bok choy and cilantro, and she will nibble on that. She's not great at eating her greens, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Well, and if you don't offer them, she'll never get better. So
that's right.
That's what you got to keep doing.
Right.
So I see that right now she doesn't have very many toys in the cage, and obviously so it's easy for us to see her. But could you talk a little bit about what kind of toys she might like, or the budgies in general like?
Sure. She, yes, she was in the flight cage with my boys until this morning, and I decided that it would be better to move her out. She's now definitely a female. So I just set up this cage kind of at the last minute, and I don't have many toys in it yet, partly so that we can see her.
Yeah.
But she likes to chew on things, not plastic, but the term for it looks like plastic, but it's not really plastic.
Like the shredders kind of toys?
I don't give her shredders. I've always been concerned about budgies breeding or getting hormonal, so I don't give her things to shred. I don't give any of my budgies things to shred, although maybe I should. But I haven't been doing that, except for like their lettuce. Sometimes they kind of shred that. They do, she does like things to chew on. In her old cage, there were bells, and she liked to ring the bells. That kind of thing, and just things to move around and play with, balls inside something else where she could move the ball and around.
Yeah.
She loves mirrors. I did not put mirrors in yet. We'll put more mirrors in for her. She does like mirrors. She likes her.
I think I know what word you were hunting for. Acrylic toys?
Acrylic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, that's it, Kitty.
Yeah,
Um,
those are good for a lot of kinds of birds because they're very durable. They're very
they're very
safe,
right,
and they
right.
come in a lot of bright colors and interesting shapes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Yes. She does like her in the flight cage. The birds have a Boeing, and she used to love. That was one thing she would use to get from the bottom to the top of the cage was
Hmm.
walk her way up in circles up the Boeing, and
Got it.
she liked that very much.
Got it.
So I think she would do fine in a flight cage with other birds.
Hmm.
Not probably not an aviary, not something as large as a real aviary, but
Yeah.
a cage that's sort of your typical what do you call
Hmm.
it? Cube flight cages.
Uh-huh.
And she really enjoyed having the company of especially one of my other budgies, whom you could probably hear in the background.
Yes, I do.
So yes, they're quite upset to have been separated. He was chirping at them quite loudly this morning, earlier this morning. But so she's definitely a very social bird when it comes to other budgies.
Uh-huh. Well, speaking of other budgies, can we meet Pepper now? So here is Pepper.
Yes.
Looks like Pepper is on some kind of a very soft cage liner there.
Yes, that's right. It's two kind of thick flannel blankets folded a couple of times to fit the cage.
Hmm.
Pepper came to us through Bay Area Bird Hospital, and I think that he was brought in with a broken foot.
Oh.
Not sure how the foot was broken, but the story that I recall hearing was that somehow a child got a hold of him, a child who was too young to know how to properly hold a bird, and broke the foot.
Oh dear.
Broken in so many places that it had to be amputated.
Oh my goodness.
So that's why, and now of course he's sitting on the floor, but you can't see him. Let me
Oh, I see his tail.
and you say, come on, Bubbles, Pepper. Come on, turn around here.
There.
Okay.
All right. There we go.
So he is still recovering from that surgery. And that's
Okay.
the padded bottom on the cage. And I don't know how well you can see it, but the bottom of the cage is lifted up about halfway. So the cage is only probably 12 or 13 inches tall. And it just has the two very low down rope perches. So the idea is that if he were to fall or land on the bottom of the cage, it wouldn't hurt the wound.
Mhm.
Still has a bandage on his leg. And I keep an eye on it. I catch him every day and make sure it's not bleeding or it hasn't opened up in some way.
Okay.
He looks a little odd because he has his feathers around his beak. When I first got him from the vet, they were very red, and I was worried that he had some kind of a wound, around his mouth.
Mhm.
And it turned out that was his medicine.
Ah.
Okay, and so I've tried a couple of times just using a damp Q-tip to kind of clean that up, but it looks a little reddish, and the feathers are still a little bit out of place. But that's all that is. That will
Got it.
become perfectly normal. And
Yeah.
he is a boy, as you said. He has the blue, and that does mean he's a boy. He's standing on the one foot. It's his right foot that had to be amputated, and it's still bandaged and it still looks kind of raw. But I think it'll heal up and he'll be fine. He does fly and he gets around pretty well, even on one foot. So you can see he's working just fine.
Yeah. So long term, what kind of special accommodations do you expect him to need?
He has a return visit to the vet in not this coming week, but the following week. I've only had him for a week.
Okay.
Less than actually 5 days. And I have to see him again in 2 weeks just to make sure the leg is healing. But I think that once the wound heals over, that he won't need any kind of special accommodations. Possibly some flat perches or to make it easier to perch. Since he flies fine and he can perch just fine on one foot, he would be considered pretty much a normal bird at that point. Aside from having some flat perches, I don't think that he would need a soft bottom cage once the wound heals up. But I will do that when I see the vet again. But he seems to be doing absolutely fine, except for the foot. And
he looks great.
Yeah, he's not on any medication anymore.
We do have an audience question, and reminder for everyone, go ahead and send us more. Okay, now we've got a couple. For one, how old is Pepper? It sounds like he's probably pretty young.
He's pretty young, yes. He still has some faint little stripes on his forehead.
Okay.
I would say he's probably about 8 months would be my best guess.
Got it. Okay. And then as we're coming close to the end of our time, but
Yes.
how friendly is Pepper given the amount of vet care and handling he's had? And do you have a sense of his personality yet?
He's
I know you haven't had him for very long.
Yeah, he will come get close to me when there's millet. He hasn't yet stepped in my hand, but he doesn't freak out if I put my hand in with some millet. He'll come over and eat it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that especially because he's young, he'd be easy to train to step up and that kind of thing.
Okay. Got it. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about Pepper before we go and meet a couple cockatiels?
I don't think so. He's been a very pleasant little bird to have. He's a very sweet little bird and seems to enjoy the company of other birds. You can hear them talking. So
Yeah.
he will make a very fine little bird for somebody.
Yeah, he looks like a really cute little guy. I'm having some budgie envy myself right at the moment, I have to admit.
He's available.
Well, thank you, Amy, for your time.